The third book of Homer's Iliads. The argument. Paris, betwixt the hosts, to single fight of all the Greeks, dares the most hardy knight. King Menelaus doth accept his brave, conditioning that he again should have fair Helena, with all she brought to Troy, if he subdued, else Paris should enjoy her and her wealth in peace. Conquest doth grant her dear wreath to the Grecian combatant, but Venus to her champion's life doth yield safe rescue, and conveys him from the field into his chamber, and for Helen sends, whom much her lover's foul disgrace offends. Yet Venus for him still makes good her charms, and ends the second combat in his arms. Another argument. Gamma. The single fight doth sing, twixt Paris and the Spartan king. When every least commander's will best soldiers had obeyed, and both the hosts were ranged for fight, the Trojans would have frayed the Greeks with noises, crying out, in coming rudely on, at all parts like the cranes that fill the air, with harsh confusion of brutish clangies all the air, and in ridiculous war, eschewing the unsuffered storms shot from the winter's star, visit the ocean, and confer the pygmy soldiers' death. The Greeks charged silent, and like men bestowed their thrifty breath in strength of far resounding blows, still entertaining care of either's rescue, when their strength did their engagements dare. And as, upon a hill's steep tops, the south wind pours a cloud to shepherds thankless, but by thieves that love the night, allowed a darkness letting down, that blinds a stone's cast off men's eyes. Such darkness from the Greek swift feet, made all of dust, did rise. But ere stern conflict mixed both strengths, fair Paris stepped before the Trojan host. Athwart his back a panther's hide he wore, a crooked bow and sword, and shook two brazen-headed darts, with which, well armed, his tongue provoked the best of Grecian hearts to stand with him in single fight. Whom when the man, wronged most of all the Greeks, so gloriously saw stalked before the host, as when a lion is rejoiced, with hunger half forlorn, that finds some sweet prey, as a hart, whose grace lies in his horn, or sylvan goat which he devours, though never so pursued with dogs and men. So Sparta's king exulted when he viewed the fair-faced Paris so exposed to his so thirsted reek, whereof his good cause made him sure. The Grecian front did break, and forth he rushed, at all parts armed, leapt from his chariot, and royally prepared for charge. Which seen, cold terror shot through the heart of Paris, who retired as headlong from the king as in him he had shunned his death. And as a hilly spring presents a serpent to a man, full underneath his feet, her blue neck swollen with poison, raised and her sting out, to greet his heedless entry, suddenly his walk he altereth, starts back amaze, is shook with fear, and looks as pale as death. So Menelaus Paris scared, so that divine-faced foe shrunk in his beauties, which beheld by Hector, he let go this bitter check at him. Accursed, made but in beauty's scorn, impostor, woman's man, O heaven, that thou hast ne'er been born, or, being so manless, never lived to bear man's noblest state, the nuptial honour, which I wish, because it were a fate much better for thee than this shame. This spectacle doth make a man a monster. Hark, how loud the Greeks laugh, who did take thy fair form for a continent of parts as fair. A rape thou madest of nature, like their queen. No soul, an empty shape, takes up thy being, yet how spite to every shade of good fills it with ill. For as thou art, thou couldst collect a brood of others like thee, and far hence fetch ill enough to us, even to thy father. All these friends make those foes mock them thus in thee, for whose ridiculous sake so seriously they lay all Greece and fate upon their necks. O wretch, not dare to stay weak Menelaus, but 'twas well, For in him thou hadst tried what strength lost beauty can infuse, and with the more grief died to feel thou robb'st a worthier man, to wrong a soldier's right. Your harp's sweet touch, curled locks, fine shape, and gifts so exquisite, given thee by Venus, would have done your fine dames little good, when blood and dust had ruffled them, and had as little stood thyself instead. But what thy care of all these in thee flies, we should inflict on thee ourselves. Infectious cowardice in thee hath terrified our host, for which thou well deservest a coat of tombstone, not of steel, in which for form thou servest. To this thus Paris spake, for form that might inhabit heaven. Hector, because thy sharp reproof is out of justice given, I take it well, but though my heart, inured to these affrights, cuts through them as an axe through oak, that more used more excites the workman's faculty, whose art can make the edge go far, yet I, less practised than thyself in these extremes of war, may well be pardoned, though less bold. In these your worth exceeds, in others mine. Nor is my mind of less force to the deeds required in war, because my form more flows in gifts of peace. Reproach not, therefore, the kind gifts of golden Cyprides. All heaven's gifts have their worthy price, as little to be scorned as to be won with strength, wealth, state, with which to be adorned some men would change state, wealth, or strength. But if your martial heart wish me to make my challenge good, and hold it such a part of shame to give it over thus, cause all the rest to rest, and twixt both hosts let Sparta's king and me perform our best for Helen and the wealth she brought. And he that overcomes, or proves superior any way, in all your equal dooms, let him enjoy her utmost wealth, keep her, or take her home. The rest strike leagues of endless date, and hearty friends become. You dwelling safe in glebby Troy, the Greeks retire their force to Achaia, that breeds the fairest dames, and Argos fairest horse. He said, and his amenceful words did Hector highly please, who rushed betwixt the fighting hosts, and made the Trojans cease, by holding up in midst his lance. The Grecians noted not the signal he for parley used, but at him fiercely shot, hurled stones, and still were levelling darts. At last the king of men, great Agamemnon, cried aloud, Argives, for shame! Contain, youths of Achaia! Shoot no more, the fair-helmed Hector shows as he desired to treat with us. This said, all ceased from blows, and Hector spake to both the hosts. Trojans, and hardy Greeks, hear now what he that stirred these wars for their secession seeks. He bids us all, and you, disarm, that he alone may fight with Menelaus for us all, for Helen and her right, with all the dower she brought to Troy, and he that wins the day, or is, in all the art of arms, superior any way, the queen, and all her sorts of wealth, let him at will enjoy. The rest strike truce, and let love seal firm leagues twixt Greece and Troy. The Greek host wondered at this brave. Silence flew everywhere. At last spake Sparta's warlike king. Now also give me ear, whom grief gives most cause of reply. I now have hope to free the Greeks and Trojan of all ills they have sustained for me. And Alexander, that was cause I stretched my spleen so far. Of both then, which is nearest fate, let his death end the war. The rest immediately retire, and greet all homes in peace. Go then, to bless your champion, and give his powers success. Fetch for the earth, and for the sun, the gods on whom ye call, 2 lambs, a black one and a white, a female and a male. And we another for ourselves will fetch, and kill to Jove. To sign which rites bring Priam's force, because we well approve his sons perfidious, envious, and, out of practised bane to faith, when she believes in them, Jove's high truce may profane. All young men's hearts are still unstayed, but in those well-weighed deeds An old man will consent to pass things past, and what succeeds he looks into, that he may know how best to make his way through both the fortunes of a fact and will the worst obey. This granted, a delightful hope both Greeks and Trojans fed, of longed-for rest from those long toils their tedious war had bred. Their horses then in rank they set, drawn from their chariots round, descend themselves, took off their arms, and placed them on the ground, near one another, for the space twixt both the hosts was small. Hector 2 heralds sent to Troy, that they from thence might call King Priam, and to bring the lambs, to rate the truce they swore. But Agamemnon to the fleet Talthybius sent before, to fetch their lamb, who nothing slacked, the royal charge was given. Iris, the rainbow, then came down ambassadress from heaven, to white-armed Helen. She assumed at every part the grace of Helen's last love's sister shape, who had the highest place in Helen's love, and had to name Laodice, most fair of all the daughters Priam had, and made the nuptial pair with Helicaon, royal sprout of old Antenor's seed. She found Queen Helena at home, at work about a weed woven for herself. It shined like fire, was rich and full of size, the work of both sides being alike, in which she did comprise the many labours warlike Troy and brass-armed Greece endured, for her fair sake, by cruel Mars and his stern friends procured. Iris came in joyful haste, and said, "O come with me, loved nymph, and an admired sight of Greeks and Trojans see, who first on one another brought a war so full of tears, even thirsty of contentious war, now every man forbears, and friendly by each other sits, each leaning on his shield, their long and shining lances pitched fast by them in the field. Paris and Sparta's king alone must take up all the strife, and he that conquers only call fair Helena his wife." Thus spake the thousand-coloured dame, and to her mind commends the joy to see her first espoused her native towers and friends, which stirred a sweet desire in her to serve the which she hied, shadowed her graces with white veils, and though she took a pride to set her thoughts at gaze, and see, in her clear beauty's flood, what choice of glory swum to her yet tender womanhood. Seasoned with tears, her joys to see more joys the more offence, and that perfection could not flow from earthly excellence. Thus went she forth, and took with her women most of name, Aethra, Pythius' lovely birth, and Clymene, whom fame hath for her fair eyes memorized. They reached the Scaean towers, where Priam sat, to see the fight, with all his counsellors, Panthuus, Lampus, Clytius, and stout Hicetaon, Thymoetes, wise Antenor, and profound Eucaligon. All grave old men, and soldiers they had been but for age, now left the wars, yet counsellors they were exceeding sage. And as in well-grown woods or trees cold spiny grasshoppers sit chirping, and send voices out that scarce can pierce our ears for softness, and their weak faint sounds, so, talking on the tower, these seniors of the people sat, who, when they saw the power of beauty in the queen ascend even those cold-spirited peers, those wise and utmost withered men found this heat in their years, that they were forced, through whispering, to say what men can blame the Greeks and Trojans to endure for so admired a dame, so many miseries, and so long. In her sweet countenance shine looks like the goddesses, and yet, though never so divine, before we boast unjustly still of her enforced prize, and justly suffer for her sake with all our progenies, labour and ruin, let her go, the profit of our land must pass the beauty. Thus, though these could bear so fit a hand on their affections, yet when all their gravest powers were used, they could not choose but welcome her, and rather they accused the gods than beauty. For thus spake the most famed king of Troy: "Come, loved daughter, sit by me, and take the worthy joy of thy first husband's sight. old friends and princes near allied, and name me some of these brave Greeks so manly beautified. Come, do not think I lay the wars endured by us on thee. The gods have sent them, and the tears in which they swum to me. Sit then, and name this goodly Greek, so tall and broadly spread, who than the rest that stand by him is higher by the head. The bravest man I ever saw, and most majestical, his only presence makes me think him king amongst them all. The fairest of her sex replied, Most reverend father-in-law, most loved, most feared, would some ill death had seized me when I saw the first mean why I wronged you thus, that I had never lost the sight of these my ancient friends, of him that loved me most, of my sole daughter, brothers both, with all those kindly mates, of one soil, one age, born with me, though under different fates. But these boons envious stars deny. The memory of these in sorrow pines those beauties now, that then did too much please, nor satisfy they your demand, to which I thus reply, That's Agamemnon, Atreus' son, the great in empery, a king, whom double royalty doth crown, being great and good, and one that was my brother-in-law, when I contained my blood, and was more worthy, if at all I might be said to be, my being lost so soon in all that honored me. The good old king admired and said, O Atreus' blessed son, born unto joyful destinies, that hast the empire won of such a world of Grecian youths as I discover here. I once marched into Phrygia, that many vines doth bear, where many Phrygians I beheld, well skilled in use of horse, that of the two men, like two gods, were the commanded force. Atreus and great Mygdonus, who on Sangarius' sands set down their tents, with whom myself, for my assistant bands, was numbered as a man in chief, that cause of war was then the Amazon dames, that in their facts affected to be men. In all there was a mighty power, which yet did never rise, to equal these Achaean youths, that have the sable eyes. Then, seeing Ulysses next, he said, Loved daughter, what is he that, lower than great Atreus' son, seems by the head to me, yet in his shoulders and big breast presents a broader show? His armour lies upon the earth, he up and down doth go, to see his soldier keep their ranks, and ready have their arms, if in this truce they should be tried by any false alarms. Much like a well-grown bellwether, or feltred ram he shows, that walks before a wealthy flock of fair white-fleeced ewes. High Jove and Leda's fairest seed to Priam thus replies, This is the old Laertes' son, Ulysses, called the wise, who, though unfruitful Ithaca was made his nursing seat, yet knows he every sort of sleight, and is in counsel great. The wise Antenor answered her, "'Tis true, renowned dame, for some time past wise Ithaca to Troy a legate came, with Menelaus for your cause, to whom I gave receipt as guests, and welcome to my house, with all the love I might. I learned the wisdom of their souls, and humours of their blood, for when the Trojan council met, and these together stood, by height of his broad shoulders had Atrides eminence, yet set Ulysses did exceed, and bred more reverence. And when their counsels and their words they wove in one, the speech of Atreus' son was passing loud, small fast, yet did not reach too much, being naturally born laconical, nor would his humour lie for anything, or was, like the other, old. But when the prudent Ithacus did to his counsels rise, he stood a little still, and fixed upon the earth his eyes, his sceptre moving neither way, but held it formally, like one that vainly doth affect of wrathful quality, and frantic, rashly judging him, you would have said he was. But when out of his ample breast he gave his great voice pass, and words that flew about our ears like drifts of winter's snow, none thenceforth might contend with him, though not admired for show. The third man aged Priam marked was Ajax Telamon, of whom he asked, "What lord is that, so large of limb and bone, so raised in height, that to his breast I see there reacheth none?" To him the goddess of her sex, the large-veiled Helen, said, "That lord is Ajax Telamon, a bulwark in their aid. On the other side stands Idomen, in Crete of most command, and round about his royal sides his Cretan captains stand. Oft hath the warlike Spartan king given hospitable due to him within our Lacine court, and all his retinue, and now the other Argive dukes I generally discern, all which I know, and all their names could make thee quickly learn. Two princes of the people yet I nowhere can behold, Castor, the skilful knight on horse, and Pollux uncontrolled. For all stand fights and force of hand, both at a birth and bred, my natural brothers, either here they have not followed from lovely Sparta, or arrived within the sea-borne fleet, in fear of infamy for me in broad field shame to meet. Not so, for holy Talus's womb enclosed those worthy men, in Sparta their beloved soil. The voiceful heralds then the firm agreement of the gods through all the city ring, 2 lambs and spirit-refreshing wine, the fruit of earth, they bring. Within a goatskin bottle closed, Idaeus also brought a massy glittering bowl, and cups that all of gold were wrought, which bearing to the king they cried, "Son of Laomedon, rise, for the well-rowed peers of Troy and brass-armed Greeks in one send to thee to descend the field, that they firm vows may make. For Paris and the Spartan king must fight for Helen's sake, with long-armed lances, and the man that proves victorious, the woman and the well she brought, shall follow to his house. The rest knit friendship and firm leagues, we safe in Troy shall dwell. In Argos and Achaia they that do in dames excel." He said, and Priam's aged joints with chilled fear did shake, yet instantly he bade his men his chariot ready make, which soon they did, and he ascends, he takes the reins, and guide Antenor calls, who instantly mounts to his royal side, and through the Scaean ports to field the swift-foot horse they drive. And when at them of Troy and Greece the aged lords arrive, from horse on Troy's well-feeding soil, twixt both the hosts they go. When straight up rose the king of men, up rose Ulysses too. The heralds in their richest coats repeat, as was the guise, the true vows of the gods, termed theirs, since made before their eyes. Then in a cup of gold they mix the wine that each side brings, and next pour water on the hands of both the kings of kings. Which done, Atrides drew his knife, that evermore he put within the large sheath of his sword, with which away he cut the wool from both fronts of the lambs, which as a rite in use of execration to their heads, that break the plighted truce, the heralds of both hosts did give the peers of both, and then, with hands and voice advanced to heaven, thus prayed the king of men. "O Jove, that Ida dost protect, and hast the titles won, most glorious, most invincible, and thou all-seeing Sun, all-hearing, all-recomforting, floods, earth, and powers beneath, that all the perjuries of men chastise even after death, be witnesses, and see performed the hearty vows we make. If Alexander shall the life of Menelaus take, he shall from henceforth Helena with all her wealth retain, and we will to our household gods hoist sail and home again. If, by my honoured brother's hand, be Alexander slain, the Trojans then shall his forced queen with all her wealth restore, and pay convenient fine to us, aid ours for evermore. If Priam and his sons deny to pay his, thus agreed, when Alexander shall be slain, or that perfidious deed, and for the fine will I fight here, till dearly they repay, by death and ruin, the amends that falsehood keeps away. This said, the throats of both the lambs cut with his royal knife. He laid them panting on the earth, till, quite deprived of life, the steel had robbed them of their strength. Then golden cups they crowned, with wine out of a cistern drawn, which poured upon the ground. They fell upon their humble knees to all the deities, and thus prayed, one of both the hosts, that might do sacrifice. O Jupiter, most high, most great, and all the deathless powers, who first shall dare to violate the late sworn oaths of ours, so let the bloods and brains of them, and all they shall produce, flow on the stained face of the earth, as now this sacred juice. And let their wives with bastardess brand all their future race. Thus prayed they, but with wished effects their prayers Jove did not grace. When Priam said, Lords of both hosts, I can no longer stay to see my loved son try his life, and so must take my way to wind-exposed Ilion. Jove yet and heaven's high states know only which of these must now pay tribute to the fates. Thus, putting in his coach the lambs, he mounts and reins his horse, and Tenor to him, and to Troy, both take their speedy course. Then Hector, Priam's martial son, stepped forth and met the ground with wise Ulysses, where the blows of combat must resound. Which done, into a helm they put 2 lots, to let them know which of the combatants should first his brass-piled javelin throw. When all the people standing by, with hands held up to heaven, prayed Jove the conquest might not be forced or fortune given, but that the man who was in right, the author of most wrong, might feel his justice, and no more these tedious wars prolong, but sinking to the house of death, leave them, as long before, linked fast in leagues of amity, that might dissolve no more. Then Hector shook the helm that held the equal dooms of chance, looked back and drew, and Paris first had lot to hurl his lance. The soldiers all sat down and ranked, each by his arms and horse, that then lay down and cooled their hoofs, and now the allotted course bids fair-haired Helen's husband arm, who first makes fast his greaves with silver buckles to his legs, then on his breast receives the curates that Lycaon wore, his brother, but made fit for his fair body. Next his sword he took, and fastened it, all damasked, underneath his arm. His shield then grave and great his shoulders wore, and on his head his glorious helm he set, topped with a plume of horsehair that horribly did dance, and seemed to threaten as he moved. At last he takes his lance, exceeding big and full of weight, which he with ease could use. In like sort Sparta's warlike king himself with arms endues. Thus armed, at either army both, they both stood bravely in, possessing both hosts with amaze, they came so chin to chin, and with such horrible aspects each other did salute. A fair large field was made for them, where wraths for hugeness mute and mutual made them mutually at either shake their darts before they threw. Then Paris first with his long javelin parts, it smote Atrides' orbitarge, but ran not through the brass, for in it, arming well the shield, the head reflected was. Then did the second combatant apply him to his spear, which ere he threw, he thus besought almighty Jupiter, O Jove, vouchsafe me now revenge, and that my enemy, for doing wrong so undeserved, may pay deservedly the pains he forfeited, and let these hands inflict those pains, by conquering, aye, by conquering dead, him on whom life complains, that any now, or any one of all the brood of men to live hereafter, may with fear from all offence abstain, much more from all such foul offence to him that was his host, and entertained him as the man whom he affected most. This said, he shook and threw his lance, which struck through Paris's shield, and with the strength he gave to it, it made the curates yield. His coat of mail, his breast, and all, and drove his entrails in that low region where the guts in 3 small parts begin. Yet he, in bowing of his breast, prevented sable death. This taint he followed with his sword, drawn from a silver sheath, which lifting high, he strook his helm full where his plume did stand, on which it piecemeal brake, and fell from his unhappy hand. At which he sighing stood, and stared upon the ample sky, and said, O Jove, there is no God given more illiberally to those that serve thee than thyself. Why have I prayed in vain? I hoped my hand should have revenged the wrongs I still sustain on him that did them, and still dares their foul defence pursue. And now my lance hath missed his end, my sword in shivers flew, and he scapes all. With this again he rushed upon his guest, and caught him by the horsehair plume that dangled on his crest, with thought to drag him to the Greeks, which he had surely done, and so besides the victory had wondrous glory won, because the needle-painted lace with which his helm was tied beneath his chin, and so about his dainty throat implied, had strangled him, but that in time the Cyprian seed of Jove did break the string, with which was lined that which the needle wove, and was the tough thong of a steer, and so the victor's palm was, for so full a man-at-arms, only an empty helm, that then he swung about his head, and cast among his friends, who scrambled, and took to up with shouts. Again then he intends to force the lifeblood of his foe, and ran on him amain with shaken javelin, when the queen, that lovers loves, again attended, and now ravished him from that encounter quite, with ease and wondrous suddenly, for she a goddess might. She hid him in a cloud of gold, and never made him known, till in his chamber, fresh and sweet, she gently sent him down, and went for Helen, whom she found in Scia's utmost height, to which whole swarms of city dames had climbed to see the sight. To give her errand good success, she took on her the shape of Beldame Greia, who was brought by Helen in her rape from Lacedaemon, and had trust in all her secrets still, being old, and had, of all her maids, the main bent of her will, and spun for her finest wool. Like her, love's empress came, pulled Helen by the heavenly veil, and softly said, Madame, my lord calls for you. You must needs make all your kind haste home. He's in your chamber, stays and longs, sits by your bed, pray come. 'Tis richly made and sweet, but he more sweet, and looks so clear, so fresh and movingly attired, that seeing you would swear he came not from the dusky fight, but from a courtly dance, or would to dancing. This she made a charm for dalliance, whose virtue Helen felt, and knew by her so radiant eyes, white neck, and most enticing breasts, the deified disguise, at which amazed she answered her, Unhappy deity, why lov'st thou still in these deceits to wrap my fantasy? O whither yet, of all the towns given to their lust beside, in Phrygia or Maeonia, comest thou to be my guide? If there of divers languaged men thou hast, as here in Troy, some other friend to be my shame, since here thy latest joy, by Menelaus now subdued, by him shall I be borne home to his court, and end my life in triumphs of his scorn. And to this end would thy deceits my wanton life allure. Hence, go thyself to Priam's son, and all the ways abjure of gods or god-like minded dames, nor ever turn again thy earth-affecting feet to heaven, but for his sake sustain toils here. Guard, grace him endlessly, till he requite that grace by giving thee my place with him, or take his servant's place. If all dishonorable ways your favour seek to serve, is never pleased incontinence I better will deserve than serve his dotage now. What shame were it for me to feed this lust in him? All honoured dames would hate me for the deed. He lives a woman's love so shamed, and shows so base a mind, to feel nor my shame nor his own griefs of a greater kind, wound me that such as can admit such kind delights so soon. The goddess, angry that, past shame, her mere will was not done, replied, Incense me not, you wretch, lest, once incensed, I leave thy cursed life to as strange a hate as yet it may receive a love from me, and lest I spread through both hosts such despite for those plagues they have felt for thee, that both abjure thee quite, and setting thee in midst of both, turn all their wraths on thee, and dart thee dead, that such a death may wreak thy wrong of me. This strook the fair dame with such fear it took her speech away, and shadowed in her snowy veil she durst not but obey, and yet to shun the shame she feared she vanished undescried of all the Trojan ladies there, for Venus was her guide. Arrived at home, her women both fell to their work in haste, when she, that was of all her sex the most divinely graced, ascended to a higher room, though much against her will, where lovely Alexander was, being led by Venus still. The laughter-loving dame discerned her moved mind by her grace, and for her mirth's sake set a stool full before Paris's face, where she would needs have Helen sit, who, though she durst not choose, but sit, yet looked away for all the goddess's power could use, and used her tongue too, and to chide whom Venus soothed so much, and chid too in this bitter kind. And was thy cowardice such, so conquered to be seen alive? Oh, would to God thy life had perished by his worthy hand, to whom I first was wife. Before this, thou wouldst glorify thy valour and thy lance, and past my first loves boast them far. Go once more and advance thy braves against his single power. This foil might fall by chance. Poor conquered man! 'Twas such a chance as I would not advise thy valour should provoke again. Shun him, thou most unwise, lest next thy spirit sent to hell, thy body be his prize. He answered, Prithee, woman, cease to chide and grieve me thus. Disgraces will not ever last. Look on their end. On us will other gods at other times let fall the victor's wreath, as on him Pallas put it now. Shall our love sink beneath the hate of fortune? In love's fire let all hates vanish. Come, love never so inflamed my heart. No, not when, bringing home thy beauty's so delicious prize, on Crini's blest shore I longed for, and enjoyed thee first. With this he went before, she after, to the odorous bed. While these to pleasure yield, perplexed Atrides, savage-like, ran up and down the field, and every thickest troop of Troy, and of their far-called aid, searched for his foe, who could not be by any eye betrayed. Nor out of friendship, out of doubt, did they conceal his sight. All hated him so like their deaths, and owed him such despite. At last thus spake the king of men, Hear me, ye men of Troy, ye Dardans and the rest, whose power you in their aids employ. The conquest on my brother's part ye all discern is clear. Do you then, Argive Helen, with all her treasure here, restore to us, and pay the mullet that by your vows is due? Yield us an honoured recompense, and all that should accrue to our posterities, confirm, that when you render it, our acts may here be memorized. This all Greeks else thought fit. End of the third book.